Ready, Travis?
All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the April 8th, 2025 Board of County Commissioners meeting. Would you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first thing on our agenda are our minutes. Gentlemen, do we have any additions or corrections?
No, I don't.
Go ahead.
I move to approve the proceedings of Board of County Commissioners for Montezuma County for Tuesday, April 1st, 2025 as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the proceedings of the Board of Commissioners, Montezuma County, April 1st, 2025. Is there any discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, planning. You guys have taken it easy on us for a couple weeks, and now you pack the agenda and pack the room. Kind of good.
Now you got to earn your pay.
Now we got to earn everything. All right. First thing we have is a resolution number 5, 2025, to adopt the amended land use code to include the variance section in the code and associated fees schedule. We did vote on this last week, and now we have the resolution in front of us. So, Attorney Tarnowski, what else do you have to say here?
Yeah, this amendment to the land use code is an amendment insofar as that we've added an additional section that's specific to how the county wants to process variance applications. So nothing in the original land use code is changed in this new resolution and land use code. It's really just a specific addition that we've been working on.
And that was approved last week. This is just codifying it with a resolution, correct?
Yes, so I think we do need to actually sign the resolution, so we should have a signature page
Kim has that document.
for the board to sign.
We have it. Okay. We have it. Good to go.
Good to go?
Sign it.
Yes.
Does it need a motion or not?
We made the motion last week. It was already adopted then, but do we
Yeah.
need a new one for the resolution?
This is a different resolution number.
Yeah, so I
For the
think
9104.
for our, we should, the board, I would make the recommendation that the board motion to sign this resolution and formally adopt this amended land use code.
I move to approve resolution number 5-2025, amendment to the Montezuma County Land Use Code.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept and formally adopt and sign resolution number 5, 2025, an amendment to the Montezuma County Land Use Code. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. That page. All right, with that, then we have two items that we need to address that were put on forbearance for a 60-day forbearance until we had time to work on this language. So the first one, do we have the applicants here?
Yeah, I've already got town, Chris is out of town, so he's got this meeting.
Okay.
This is Nick Manning, contractor for Laura Webster.
All right. Do you want to go first, Stephen, or?
Yes, I can start. So we are here on the resuming a public hearing. I don't know if you want to start actually with calling the.
I can do that.
Public
So
hearing.
we will go ahead and resume this public hearing. So would you call the roll, please, Kim?
It's technically not a public hearing. It's just a,
That's what I thought.
Variance
We
application.
went through it, it's a variance application, so we went, okay.
All right. I'll take over from here. So part of the record that I need to make is that this application to be heard by the Board of Adjustment, which in our county is the Board of County Commissioners, was filed. We had some discussion about sort of how our land use code applies to this, and the board moved to continue this application while some additional criteria in the land use code were developed. However, generally, regulations are prospective in application, so they apply to future things. And so it's my opinion that to apply the additional criteria that were adopted in the land use code to this application specifically, because it was filed before there was any contemplation of making those changes, would be a due process issue. So I think we're here today on this continued application for this variance, really in the same posture that we were when we originally took this issue up. And that is that the Board of Adjustment has powers through statute to do certain things, including to grant essentially variances, which are defined in statute. And I'll just read that section. So basically, the Board of Adjustment, where by reason of exceptional narrowness, shallowness, or shape of a specific piece of property at the time of the enactment of the regulation, or by reason of exceptional topographic conditions or other extraordinary and exceptional situations or conditions of such piece of property, the strict application of any regulation under this Part 1, which is essentially just referencing the county land use code, would result in peculiar and exceptional practical difficulties to, or exceptional and undue hardship upon the owner of such property to authorize upon an appeal relating to said property a variance from such strict application so as to relieve such difficulties or hardship if such relief may be granted without substantial detriment to the public good and without substantially impairing the intent and purpose of the zone plan and zoning resolution. So, Commissioners, that is kind of the framework on which I think it's appropriate to evaluate this application for a variance that's before you today. And I'm happy to answer any questions about those couple different pieces, if the board has any, as we go through the hearing.
So I'll let you start first, Nick. Do you have anything else to add from last time, or?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think I said what I needed to say last time, so really leaving it up to you all at this point.
Okay.
If you have questions for me, I'm happy to answer them, of course.
I don't have any further questions. My other two commissioners might, but again, for me specifically, and I'm only one of three making a decision here, but if we just go by the language in the land use code, there is no reason at all for us to accept this variance. And this is not only the first variance, this is now the second variance with a setback to 30 feet from where it was moved. It was relaxed to 30 feet from 50 feet. So we now have not erred once, but we've erred twice.
The original one being the house.
Right, right. And a variance is specific to that item. It doesn't just say, hey, once you get a variance, you're carte blanche to the whole property. So this is new. This is a new structure. And it's still approximately 10 feet, I think is what you said, right? Ish,
Yeah, 9 feet, yeah.
or 9, 10. So now instead of 30 feet, now we're pushing 20 feet. So, you know, I can remember when we were changing the land use code and we were trying to relax the 50 feet to the 30 feet. Because we had actually even dropped it to, I think, 24 feet at the time. And when we listened to the public hearings, everybody said, no, that's too close. It's too close. It's too close. So if we go by the criteria in the land use code, really, we have no reason at all to grant this variance. So we're now stuck with two options, the way I see it. which is something that's been done in the past, is a fine. It's been done in this county and in several areas. Or we make him move the structure, which is super punitive. That's the way I see it. That's the way the land use code basically states, is really we have the option to deny it, and then we make it comply with the land use code. I'll stop there. Commissioner Lindsay or Copenhagen, do you want to add anything?
Well, I think all of these cases like this, on that other structure, I think that variance was issued before that was ever built.
Yeah.
They came in and went through the process because of the steep structure behind the house and stuff. That happened before it was ever built. Okay? This should have been addressed in the same way. In my feeling is that failure to do that, you're just, to me, is what I have a real problem with. This would have come in and come before us beforehand, and you would have went through the process properly, it would put a whole different light on it as far as me trying to work with you, trying to develop a plan that would work for both of us, for the county and for you, this homeowner. So I guess I'm with Jim. I think there's got to be some punitive damage here. And
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I mean, I'm not denying that fact.
Yeah.
I mean, the proper way to do this would have been to apply for the, proper way to do this would have been to apply for the variance ahead of time. Yeah, there's no denying that fact, so I'm in agreement with that.
Commissioners, I'll jump in here. I do want to remind you that I have advised you on the prospect of issuing fines in executive session. And for my part, I would again invite the board to consider pursuing prosecution of land use code violations in county court through the relevant statute 3028-124.5.
Commissioner Lindsay?
In setting up here, issuing variances, we tend to erode our land use code by continuing to do this. And I agree with the other two commissioners that we've got to quit doing this, or else we were not going to have, we're just gonna sit up here and issue variances.
Sure.
So I'm totally in agreement with the other two. If we continue to erode our land use code in this manner, getting repetitive, but we won't have a land use code. We might as well just quit and let everybody do whatever they want, which I'm sure some people would just soon see us do.
Yeah.
So we're in a position, if we follow the land use code by the letter of the law, we're going to deny this, you're out of compliance, and you're going to move this structure. I don't know if you put any cost to that, but I can put some cost to it real quick, and I have a pretty good idea of what it's going to cost, which is super punitive.
Yeah.
So I question myself, is that really what we want to do? But then I also have an attorney sitting to the right of me advising me every day of you can and you cannot.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to pay attention to that also.
Of course.
Not that I always like to, but I pretty much have to because I'm looking at a code that's a law.
Yeah.
So I just want you to understand the situation that we are in.
I fully understand it. I mean, yeah, I know it's not a light thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So gentlemen, which way do we want to go here?
I would so move we deny the after-fact setback variance application submitted by Laura Webster on property located at 8400 Road 39, Mancos.
And Commissioner, do you want to supplement your motion with, as it relates back to the statute? So the Board of Adjustment has the power to make this variance if certain conditions exist, such as strict application would result in peculiar and exceptional practical difficulties to or exceptional undue hardship upon the owner of the property. And so the board could grant a variance to relieve the strict application to relieve such difficulties or hardship that would come with strict application.
Yes.
So is it your motion that that there are not peculiar or exceptional practical difficulties to strict application of the land use code in this instance? Or that it's, I guess that's my question.
I see no hardship.
There are
Okay.
not. So we don't have a second yet.
I guess my problem with seconding this motion is the fact that it is gonna be a hardship for them to move this structure and redo this structure. And in that manner, I see that we are putting a real hardship on them. We are, by doing that. And I guess I'm not really okay with going that far.
Right.
I'm not. I mean, I think they've done wrong with what they proceeded with, but I think we should still issue the variance with some kind of punitive damage, and I don't necessarily think you should call it a fine, but I think their failure to follow the land use code should have some punitive damage for it. I guess, I know we should go through court, but if they're willing to settle for some measure without them having to hire lawyers and go through all this stuff, I just, not that I'm trying to cut out your profession. But
I didn't take that
I just do not have to
personally.
deal with them all the time, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I'm sure most of these people out here, sitting out here in this audience would also, because they know how long that can drag out and go on forever. That's where I'm at, so.
And I guess I'm more in the lines with Commissioner Copenhaver too. I know what the law says, and you've explained it to me very well. I totally understand it, but I've actually put a square footage value to what it would probably cost to move that, and it's a pretty good value. And my math is, I'm gonna say, is right on. I feel like we should have some discretion. If we can work with this landowner and say, hey, a consequence to this variance is going to come with a monetary value. We're not calling it a fine, we're not calling it a fee. It's gonna be based on a real square footage value. We're not going to make it so punitive that but we're sending a message too that, hey, you need to follow the land use code, otherwise we're faced with, the real option is move the structure. And so, would you like to make another motion then?
Let me withdraw the motion, and let me say that, to me, a hardship is something akin to a medical problem, economic collapse, something like that, which we don't have here.
Yeah.
But I agree with these guys. If we do make you move that, that is too harsh. That's a lot of money to put out there to move a building.
Yeah, it's scary from my perspective, if I'm gonna
Yes.
be honest. I'm not- yeah. It's doable, but it's.
And the other thing is, I don't think that's going to, if this was on a corner, it was gonna block people's view or something of the road, and it's not there. It's not what's there. I don't think there's anything physically that's gonna damage other people in the county or their line of sight when they're driving or any of that stuff. So I guess that's why I'm still okay with issuing the variance, but I think there should be.
With a consequence for the variance,
Yeah.
is what you're saying, correct?
So I move that we approve this variance with the consequence of,
So,
how do you want to come up with that number?
so go ahead with your motion, and then we'll have the discussion.
Okay.
Let's see.
So what I have is that you would move to approve the variance with a consequence to the variance.
Yes,
Yeah.
for failure to follow the land use code.
Second.
Okay, now we can have discussion. We have a proper motion and a second. So, I'm a math guy.
Yeah,
So the only way to look at this is to come up with a math calculation.
of course.
So the calculation that I came up with in looking at the IRC or the IBC, if you look at the code values that are on the chart in the back, we could value this at $200 a square foot if it was finished, okay? Which is gonna be higher than that, but we'll go on the low end of the valuation.
Sure.
The pictures you showed us when this came in front of us 60 days ago would calculate to be about 45% complete. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, maybe closer to 50, but yes.
Okay,
right.
so we're real close to our calculations. So, I don't have that math in front of me, but I did have it worked out, and I had talked to our planning director. And if you're 10 feet, I'm assuming the structure is about 30 feet in length.
Yeah, it is.
So, if you take that calculation and take only 50% of it, it comes up with a valuation of a number. And then the number which I have worked out, and I can work it out with you later, but basically it's gonna come out to a $6,000 fine.
Okay.
So it would be 10%
Yep.
of what the valuation of the project when it was presented to us. I don't know where it's at today, but when it was presented, I can see what's in front of the public right now.
It's further along. We put a roof on to protect it, yada,
That-
yada. Yeah.
I get it, you're trying to weather it in before,
Yeah.
but what was in front of us at that day and time,
Yeah.
we put it on forbearance, that was up to us,
Yep.
not you. Are you gentlemen okay to add that in there, that amount?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Well, then it's been moved and seconded to accept the after-the-fact variance with a consequence to the variance to this landowner of $6,000.
Okay. I'll let Lori know. Yeah, but I appreciate you letting me know.
Okay, all those in favor, or is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All
Yeah.
right, sir.
Thank you, gentlemen, for just the humanity, the reasonableness that you bring to the picture. So appreciate you kind of watching it in real time and hearing your thoughts. So appreciate that perspective. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Have a good day.
Yeah. you as well. Stick around for the show.
All right, now we have another after-the-fact variance that we also put on a 60-day forbearance for the same reason. Good morning. Okay, Don, you want to give us just kind of a brief overview on this one again?
Yes, Miss Vincent had put in a carport, had her contractor install this, I believe about 2 years ago.
I want to say it was 2024, but maybe summer.
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
Year and a half ago. So the required setback is 30 feet from Mildred Road, County Road 26. That carport is actually sitting at 24 feet setback, 25 feet setback. So it's non-compliant as well. She's looking to build an ADU. That's when the problem appeared, that the carport itself does not meet the required setback.
And Commissioners, we're in the exact same posture here with this application for the variance. This had come before the board the same date as the previous one. We put it on, essentially the board continued that application. The board looked at our land use code. We developed specific criteria on which to evaluate variances. But this application predates that revision of the land use code, so I think it is a due process issue on our facts in this case, to apply the change in the land use code retroactively. So this application should be evaluated by the board under that same provision of the Colorado Revised Statute that I read earlier, where, in short, the board has the authority, as the board, meaning it's the Board of Adjustment, to grant a variance to relieve landowners of strict application of any of the provisions in the land use code, because it would result in peculiar or exceptional practical difficulties to, or exceptional and undue hardship upon the owner of that property, and that variances should not be granted if there would be a substantial detriment to the public good and would substantially impair the intent and purpose of the zone plan and zoning resolutions.
Okay. Would you like to add anything? I don't think you were here at the last.
I wasn't.
time.
When it was continued, my application hadn't come before the commission, and so I was excused. I'm sorry for the crudeness of the diagram. I didn't bring pictures of the structure. It is finished. It's not on a foundation. It's on 8 piers. And there is a recorded easement from an adjacent property, 10762 Road 26, which is the property immediately to the north of this property, 10756. There is a sewer line from 10762 that runs through the property. The carport, it was a contractor-installed carport. It was installed where it was installed because moving it further back would actually put it on top of that sewer line from the adjacent property. When I went back and did the measurements, even moving the carport 6 feet would disrupt that sewer line because it's right there. So what we tried to do was position the carport. We looked at other areas on the property. This was really the south end of the lot was really the ideal spot for the carport. And then we had to avoid the sewer line from 10762 Road 26. So it's at 24 feet from the nearest point on the property line. There are other points where it's further away, and then at the south edge of the property line, it's 34 feet in.
So the southern boundary is in compliance.
Correct.
Okay, so it's just the westerly
The
boundary.
the west boundary.
To the,
Yeah.
to
to
Road
the county
26.
road. Okay.
So the ADU is not built. So my suggestion was to move the carport east of the sewer line easement, because you can't build on an easement, or you shouldn't, because when it gets replaced, your building gets destroyed and they don't compensate you for that. Would be to put the carport where the ADU is and move the ADU to wherever. There's 2 acres to the east of vacant land.
There's,
How big is the carport?
the carport is about 19 by 19 square feet. It's enough for 2 vehicles and a riding lawnmower and a few other odds and ends. The ADU isn't built. The ADU is positioned where it is because the sewer line runs north-south, it runs east-west on that boundary. So the ADU is proximate to, or I'm trying to put it where there's easy enough sewer access to it. The water line situation is a bit weird as well because the water line is off property and we're going to have to jag somehow across to get to the ADU. There's also a metal fence that's just to the east of the sewer line. It's in alignment with the main house structure. So you'd have to disassemble the ADU or take out the metal fence, move it, and then to move it to that spot. And then there's also a trench and a pond. So there's not room for the ADU and the carport. So without filling in the pond, filling in the trench.
So there's approximately 2 acres to the east.
Yeah, Travis, I
Which
think
which
if you
can't
bring up,
really see
is there a visual
anyway.
or not?
Do you have
Other
anything
direction.
else to add?
No, and so let me, So there's the pond, I think you can easily see. And then there's actually a drainage trench off of that pond. So I have to think about getting water to the ADU. And we finally got approved for a water tap for the ADU, so I have to think about getting water to the ADU, sewer to the ADU. And then there are irrigation lines out in that pasture as well.
Okay. So again, Stephen, if you'll read that to me, because the way I understand it, there are not any properties that would put us in the situation to grant this variance either. Would you read that again?
Yeah, I'll just read word for word from the statute where this power of the Board of Adjustment comes from. Where, by reason of exceptional narrowness, shallowness, or shape of a specific piece of property, at the time of the enactment of the regulation, or by reason of exceptional topographic conditions, or other extraordinary and exceptional situation or condition of such piece of property, the strict application of any regulation enacted under this Part 1 would result in peculiar and exceptional practical difficulties to, or exceptional and undue hardship upon, the owner of such property to authorize, upon an appeal relating to said property, a variance from such strict application so as to relieve such difficulties or hardship, if such relief may be granted without substantial detriment to the public good and without substantially impairing the intent and purpose of the zone plan and zoning resolutions,
All right, thank you. So we're in the same situation as we were previously. So to not grant this is going to put you out of compliance, which is going to put you in the situation that we would then be bound by law to take you to move the structure. But the first question I have is why didn't you just narrow it and stay compliant? I mean, if that's really where you wanted it, I get staying off of the easement, but why didn't you just narrow it a little bit?
I left it, I didn't even have an answer for you at this point. You know, I engaged a contractor. I was, to be honest with you, unaware of I personally, as a consumer, was unaware. And it is, the contractor gave me a design. I thought the design was nice. And it accommodates the vehicles we have. I mean, I don't have an exceptional answer.
Okay.
Is it truss and beam or is it metal?
It's
No,
truss and
it's just-
beam.
It's wood.
It's truss and beam, yeah. What I can say at this point is moving it, because of the way it was built, is just, I mean, I've talked to contractors about how to do it, and they're looking at it like, we have no idea how to do this for you, so.
So, Commissioners, if we use the same criteria using this same format, if you look at this, it would be classified as a utility miscellaneous structure. It has no wiring, it has no water, it has nothing going to it, which is going to be the lowest value, which would be based at 66.20 a square foot finished, which it is finished. And you are 6 feet out of compliance. Is that correct, Dawn? She's 24 feet now, and we need to be 30,
Correct.
which would be basically 144 square feet that you're out of compliance. If we do that math and stay consistent with what we just did, 10% of that, the value of the out of compliance would be $9,532. 10% of that would be $953.28. Which would be the consequence to the variance, using the same math, the same chart, the same thing right out of the book. Because this is it's not a completed house, it's just a utility, which obviously is a lot lower value per square foot. So what's your pleasure, gentlemen?
Commissioners, I would just remake my record that I have advised you on that issue in executive session, and I would again invite the board to consider prosecuting land use violations in county court.
And I get what you're saying. Here again, like Commissioner Copenhaver said, or Lindsay, that is super punitive. I know that that's what the law is saying that we should do, but don't we have some logic and some latitude to say, we're not trying to kill you, you made an error. To move that structure is not gonna be inexpensive either. And we're not wanting to just make it open to where everybody can just do what they want. That's not the point. And at some point in time, we are gonna make somebody move something. I can see this coming. This would be the easiest one to move, and I'm not pointing any fingers because of what it is, and it's just on piers. There's a lot of room in the back. There's no undue hardship, like I asked, and you have no answer. Why didn't you just narrow it a little bit?
I think that the problem we have, and let me clarify this, we have a lot of good contractors in our county. She put her faith in a contractor and it
Exactly.
didn't pan out, he didn't do his diligence. And now she's here gonna pay a price.
Well, that's
That's
not,
Not yet.
that's
but-
not up to us. That's between her and whoever she hired.
And
We're
he's
just
retired
looking at the
now.
land use code. We're looking at how do we, you're out of compliance and there is no undue hardship. There is nothing in the language that would give us the ability to grant a variance. There's just not.
I understand.
So I just did the math off the same chart. I was just putting it out there for you guys if you wanna do that, or if we wanna move it. We just have to stop these after the fact variances. They have got to stop.
I understand.
I would so move we approve the after the fact setback variance application submitted by, how do you pronounce it?
Ouida.
Ouida Vincent on property located at 10756 Road 26, Cortez, with the penalty of $953.28.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to accept the after-the-fact variance setback application submitted by Ouida Vincent on property located at 10756 Road 26, Cortez, Colorado, with the consequence for the variance of $953.28. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, ma'am. There you go.
Thank you.
You have a consequence to the variance.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Okay, now we have a public hearing. Now we'll go through this, Stephen. All right. I'm way past my time, so we can proceed. So would you call the roll, please, Kim?
Commissioner Candelaria.
Here.
Commissioner Lindsey.
Here.
Commissioner Copenhaver.
Here.
Administrator Anderson.
Here.
Attorney Tarnowski.
Here.
Kim Purcell, Montezuma County Clerk and Recorder. Notice is hereby given that the Montezuma County Board of County Commissioners will hold a public hearing for review and consideration of a moratorium prohibiting acceptance or processing of utility-scale energy development, particularly and including solar energy, applications in the unincorporated area of Montezuma County for 6 months, or until appropriate standards for such development have been established. The hearing will be held on Tuesday, April 8th, 2025, at 9 a.m. in the Commissioners' Hearing Room, Montezuma County Administrative Offices, 109 Main, Cortez, Colorado. Interested persons may attend and give input. Dated this 24th day of March, 2025, Kim Purcell Clerk, Board of County Commissioners, Montezuma County, Colorado, published in the Cortez Journal on March 26, 2025, and April 2nd, 2025.
All right, very good. Do you want to go first, or do you want Stephen to go first?
We'll let Stephen go first.
Okay.
It really isn't a planning
All right.
item. We're just here for questions.
Attorney Tarnowski.
Sure. I'd like to start just by doing a bit of background for mostly the public, I think. But I'll just get started by saying the Board of Commissioners is considering adopting a resolution to enact a temporary moratorium or ban on applications and/or processing of applications for utility-scale solar development while the board works on specific review criteria that would be responsive to the specific considerations surrounding utility-scale solar development in the county. One issue as we navigate this discussion is that there is one pending application for such a large-scale utility-scale solar power generation facility that's been submitted to the board. So one of the things the board is wrestling with is whether to pause processing of that application while these additional criteria are being developed, or essentially to develop new criteria and stop new applications and allow that one application to continue to go through the process. The board is considering this moratorium primarily under its legislative powers. The board also meets in a different role as a quasi-judicial body, and ultimately the board will need to review applications for utility-scale solar development as a quasi-judicial body. And when the board does that, the board will need to evaluate the evidence before it in the public hearing, which constitutes the record on which decisions in that hearing are made. So this discussion today is really about the application of the land use code, potential changes to the land use code, the pause that's being considered in accepting new applications for utility scale solar development, and/or processing the pending application, of which there is the one. And I think we can recognize that this application is pending. I think we can generally acknowledge and discuss that application in the context of how it relates to this discussion. But what I want to say up front is that this is not the place to discuss the particulars, the exact particulars of that application and the merits of that specific application, because there's going to be another time where all land development items come before the board. And so this is really the time to talk about this idea of a moratorium, which is a temporary legislation essentially that the board would adopt to pause either acceptance of and/or processing of these kind of applications while the board takes a look at how to regulate them. So that's kind of my first intro piece, but I also wanted to talk about what our land use code says now. And the board has heard this before. We've had a couple meetings about this, but I thought it might be helpful to generally guide the conversation and also maybe be a starting point for this public hearing, which is that Montezuma County has a land use code, and the board has applied the land use code to fairly small solar projects in the past that exist in the county. Generally, in our land use code, land is zoned a certain way and there are certain uses that are allowed in that zone so long as they don't exceed the threshold standards generally. If there is a concern about exceeding threshold standards, or if a certain use is not explicitly allowed, our land use code also requires that applicants apply for a special use and or a high impact permit. So I wanted to just talk about those issues briefly. First, our land use code has a system of special use permits that applicants can apply for. This is a mechanism in the land use code to allow additional flexibility for uses that are interim or temporary in nature, that have a greater impact than uses by right, or are of unusual circumstance that such use can be accommodated without the possible detrimental long-term effects that a change to commercial or industrial zoning could have on the neighborhood. There's also some associated prohibitions. Such uses should not create danger to the surrounding area. They should not cause water pollution. They should not cause excessive noise, vibration, smoke, dust, odors, heat, glare, or snow storage problems. They should not aggravate wildfire hazards or aggravate them. They should not create or aggravate flood hazards, and they should not create or aggravate geologic hazards. So that's something that exists in our current land use code that the board applies and has applied. Our land use code also has a high impact permit process, which is for proposed uses of land in the county that exceed the threshold standards. Essentially, our land use code requires additional submittals if there's a contemplation of higher impacts than are allowed in the threshold standards. They include a mitigation plan, which requires specific plans for mitigating conditions that exceed the threshold standards, both during construction and operation of the proposed use. It includes plans for winding down activities and service and facility demands. It includes plans for controlling any hazardous materials that may be involved in a use of the property, plans for controlling the effectiveness of any mitigation measures that are contemplated, a description of how and when the mitigation plan will be implemented and financed, and it can also include performance bonds. There's also an additional criteria or idea about highly significant impacts, which is sort of conceived of, not just exceeding the threshold standards a little bit, but maybe by quite a bit, which by definition includes major facilities of a utility. And so there's some specific requirements in our land use code in that respect about information about the sources of power that are generated, the voltage and lengths of power lines that'll be used, the location of substations, specific site maps, things like that. And essentially there are even more specific submittal requirements, which I'll just kind of read through the bullet points, that the applicant's required to submit as part of their application for their proposed use, which includes information about any possible effects on groundwater resources, on floodplains, wetlands, or riparian areas, impacts on air quality, impacts on vegetation, both in context of wildfire hazard or critical wildlife habitat, impacts to nearby agriculture or grazing operations, impacts to soil and geology, impacts on public services, additional information about specific property rights that could be impacted, like subsurface rights, impacts to wastewater treatment, and impacts on socioeconomic elements. And then ultimately, when the board makes almost any land use decision under our code, there are findings of fact and decision criteria that require finding that the proposed use is in conformity with the code, that the proposed use shall not generate any significant adverse impacts on other property in the area, that public utilities are available. And if those criteria are not met, the board can approve the project with conditions to ensure compliance with the decision criteria, or the board can deny the application for failing to meet the criteria. I also want to say that the continuing validity of a high-impact permit is dependent on continued compliance with the performance standards and conditions, and that permits that do not maintain compliance can be subject to suspension or revocation. So that's kind of my short version of our land use code, as it exists. And we've had some discussions over several meetings about how other counties are approaching the prospect of basically growing interest in solar power generation. We've also discussed in those conversations maybe some areas where we felt like it would be beneficial to have some additional criteria in our code. I don't know if the board wants to speak to that personally, or if I've kind of got my notes
I
queued
can
up
go
here.
ahead and speak to it personally.
Sure.
Because we have, if you have all been following this in the last, well, not last week, but the 2 weeks prior to that, some of our concerns were voiced, and then we were looking at some of the other land use codes from around counties that have just finished adopting large-scale solar projects in their counties. We specifically looked at Mesa County. It was just adopted and accepted the end of ¡24. It took them less than 4 months to get theirs put together. The language in there is pretty solid. It addresses, I think it addresses all of our concerns. Our concerns were, along with the NREL report that was provided for us, and I've actually gotten that report again from other people. So we have seen that report. We've discussed it and talked about it. But taking active agriculture out was a concern of ours, and a surety to make sure that we don't end up with what, and I've said this openly 100 times, what we have up on County Road T that we're still dealing with, 4 years down the road, and who knows where that's going to end up for the decommissioning part of it. And basically, how do we protect the county, and how do we protect, obviously, the property rights of the people out there also? So that's basically why. Oh, and lastly, the nuclear conversation, which is something else that we have discussed openly in all of our meetings and our traveling town halls. It's a conversation that is being talked about. It is an energy source that we do have, and it's going to become viable, and well, it already is viable. But that's something that we don't have in our code right now. So if you're welcome to go back and look at those YouTube videos and see all of our discussion on those that we have had. And henceforth, that's why we're bringing forth this moratorium, is just to pause, to make sure that we have better language in our land use code to deal with these types of situations, and to make sure that we don't end up with something that's decommissioned in 30 years or whatever the life expectancy is, and to make sure then it is able to be cleaned up and reclamated in the proper manner, just like a mine would be. So the assurities would take care of that, and also the bonds for the roads, because we will have a lot of traffic on these roads while these things are being built. 1, 2, 3 years, depending on the sizes of them. And those are our concerns, because that impacts everybody in the county. So that, I think, really addresses our concerns for the moratorium. It's not a stop to say, hey, we're just trying to stop something. It means that we're really trying to figure out how is the best way to address this in the land use code, so that everybody going forward, as you stated, it doesn't have anything to do with what we've already received, because that was already in the queue. So with that, gentlemen, do you have anything to add?
Well, I think one thing that needs to be brought out, we have started discussing this moratorium earlier, even back when we went to the CCI meeting in Denver. This was started at one of the programs that was presented there, that we started talking about this clear back then, that this was a possibility that we might need to do in order to make sure that we get things right, because we don't want to have 3 commissioners sitting up here 30 years from now. Surely they wouldn't cuss us, but We want to get it right. I mean, these people have a right to their property and to use it. We want to make sure that things are done right. And so that's where we're coming from with this thing. We're not trying to do away with anybody's property rights or anything else, but we need to make sure it's done right. So that's where I'm coming from.
And we needed to have this public hearing to hear from you folks. We've received a lot of emails, a lot of texts, and there's a lot of social media up there that's not quite right. This is not going to be a windfall for money for Montezuma County. We have our assessor that has told us that it's gonna be assessed, this property is assessed on agricultural land. This is how it's valued by the state of Colorado. It's not commercial, heavy industrial assessed, though we'd like it to be. It's assessed on how much is generated and put out, and also on personal property. And another one of our concerns was the devaluation of properties in and around this. What's it going to do to those properties? So we've got a lot to learn. We have learned a lot, but here we are, and we want to listen to you first.
All right, with that, I will go ahead and open this up for public comment. Anybody wishing to address the board, come forward to the podium, state your name and address for the record prior to providing your comments, and you may address the board at this time. I will give you, I'm going to give you 30 minutes at 3 minutes. If we don't have all the comments at then, we're going to reduce the time to 2 minutes after 30 minutes. So with that, it's the public comment session is open.
Hi, I'm Eleanor McFarland, 18405 Road P.2 in Cortez. I'm reading a letter from, basically for the record. Dear Commissioners, I support you wholeheartedly in calling a moratorium prohibiting acceptance or processing of utility-scale energy development, especially solar energy applications, in our county for an initial 6 months. I also speak for others who cannot be here today because they have to work or have unalterable commitments, and their signatures are included with my letter. There are so many reasons to take the extra time to address all utility-scale solar as a land use. The annual report that you referred to has shows that our county is lacking in documented solar policy. Basic requirements such as uniform solar panel height, fencing for solar power installations, vegetation management, visual impacts, decommissioning and reclamation, and financial assurance for decommissioning, to name a few, do not exist in our land use code. A uniform policy applied to all, rather than using a case-by-case review, would be far more fair and equitable to all parties than what we have available now. We residents need to know that you are in charge of our future, not the solar developers or their many supporting entities. Sincerely, Eleanor McFarland.
Thank you. Next.
Hi, my name is Billy Akers. I live at 30777 Road H here in Cortez. Just my opinion here is just that if we don't vote, we can't complain. If we don't speak, we have no recourse. So in all due respect, I don't know all of you personally, maybe one of you, but all of this is with due respect. But to your words earlier, Mr. Candelaria, I know the law says this. Well, we elected you guys to represent us. Let's change the law or change the code. You guys have the power to do that. But I ask that you study and use common sense and wisdom in setting or updating the standards for these large utility scale operations. And when you do that, I think because of the fact that so many come to our area simply for the natural beauty and the history, okay, and those that have been here forever have enjoyed that forever. But when you look at this and you adopt these new standards, that you consider no large utility scale operations within a 5-mile radius of any national park, state park, or national monument. much like placing a liquor store or a pot store within a certain distance from a school. I think, there's many reasons for doing that, but I won't bring it up for the sake of time. But it definitely preserved the natural beauty and the history in our county. That's the biggest thing I would ask. 5-mile radius from any of those three particular areas. Certain criteria to impact other properties. Our attorney read, well, that's a widespread, open for interpretation. What one may think would be impactful on a property that's sitting next to it might not be the same impact or feeling that somebody else would have in respect to that property. So just wanted to bring that point up. Regarding the report mentioned in Mesa County, again, I don't remember seeing it. I was one of them that sent you that Mr. Candelaria. But regarding that report mentioned, Mesa County does not have wording to protect the national parks and state parks and national monuments. So it does, that was mentioned more than any other county, I think, in that report. But that's my biggest concern. If you guys would consider that when you study and when you update these standards. People go to visit the park and they look down and they look at the beauty spread out and they see all the reflecting light on all of those solar panels at the foot of the mesa. It might be detrimental to a lot of photographs and visiting, et cetera. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is James Cowan. I live at 1812 Rampart Street here in Cortez. I come here as a parent of 2 kids in the local schools and also as a concerned citizen, seeing the significant deficit that we've been running in our county, up to $1.7 million that we've had to dig into our reserves to support. I support a moratorium to review and update our land use code. However, I do not support halting applications that are currently in process if it'll mean that those projects can't be supported in a meaningful way. I believe that the UV Alternative Energy Project has really negotiated in good faith. They've spent years developing this proposal, probably spent upwards of $1 million. They have submitted this, and I feel like we should review it on its merits. I believe that there are risks to alternative energy projects like this. You guys have discussed these, and I really believe and hope that they could be addressed in the process that we currently have, potentially in parallel to this moratorium for future projects, and that these issues could really be worked out with this proposal. Overall, I really believe that the benefits are significant, potentially up to $10 million in taxes over the life of the project. Over 50% of that goes to education. I have a child with some special needs, and I'm already concerned that he's not getting all the support that he really could in our schools here. So I really want to appeal to your role as stewards in our community, to signal that our community is open for business and that we're negotiating in good faith. I also want to make sure that the risks associated with any of these projects or future nuclear projects are thought about and addressed. I support this review of the land use code, but not for applications that are in process if it would really mean that those projects couldn't be supported. I really appreciate your time. Thank you for your thoughtful consideration of all of the members in our community and for our stewardship of our community going forward. I really believe projects like this can help set the path for kind of a next generation of energy in our community. And I think that we can do this in a fair and thoughtful way that protects everybody's interests. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Next.
Commissioners, my name is James Jackson. I live at 8068 Road 29.4 Loop in Cortez, Colorado, and I live in a subdivision which is called Cielo Bonito Ranches. I had more questions than I do comments, I believe. I understand that you have one project in progress that you have been reviewing, and it has not been decided whether or not the moratorium would continue to review that project or not. My question, first of all, is obviously I happen to live in a development which would be completely surrounded, along with 27 other residential homes, along with 8 new homes in progress, as well as a Bright Star Cabins and Campground that are all there. So all of these things are going to be. So my question is, if you're going to be reviewing this continually, how do we go about providing information on the negative side to say why we feel this would be a bad decision? I'm assuming that the one that you're talking about is the project that is.
So let me, I've got to stop you a little
Sure.
bit there, because we're not talking about any specific project that's happening right now. We're only talking about a moratorium, so we have to be very cautious. So your statement needs to be general to the moratorium and not to any specific project.
Okay, my
Because
question
we have
then
no
is,
projects in front of us at this
for the
point in time.
moratorium, you mentioned, or the attorney mentioned, whether or not you would be considering, the moratorium includes stopping consideration on the existing project.
Yeah, maybe I'll try to clarify a little bit. So one of the issues that the board is considering is, should a moratorium to review these regulations apply to pausing new applications?
Right.
And/or should it also apply to pause one application that's been filed with the county that has not been reviewed by the board, but they have given the county, the planning department, that application?
And that was my question. Would that moratorium pause that review?
It depends what the board decides,
Oh,
how
okay.
to do it. But I want to take
Let-
this time again to clarify that the purpose of our discussion today is really to talk about that issue about the adequacy of the land use code and how it could potentially apply to that proposal. But the board is really not able to hear, because it's going to need to be hearing evidence in the quasi-judicial hearing at a later time, the actual merits of each individual proposal. Does that make any sense?
It does.
So whether or not it's good or bad on its face, that's more public comment that would be appropriate in that subsequent hearing when the actual proposal comes before the board. But we do have this proposal from a company called UV that's pending with the county. And so,
Stephen, I'm gonna stop you also. I'm gonna go on with you, because this is not a debate, this is not a discussion, this is public
Right.
comment. I just had to stop you, because when you start talking specific
Understood.
projects, we cannot hear that. We are looking at a moratorium.
I totally understood,
So
and I
I will let you
apologize.
have your last 1 minute and 15 seconds to finish your public comment, and then we'll go on. And just for the public, this is not a debate, this is just public comment.
Well, then, I'll just say I am in favor of the moratorium, and I hope the moratorium also includes pausing whatever you have in front of you. And I'll let it go at that.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. Next.
My name is David Robeson. I live at 15329 County Road 31, Mancos. And I support the moratorium, but I have to say that the actions that you took previous to this public comment session have rendered the land use code of no effect. I mean, build what you want, come get a variance afterwards. And so one of the commissioners even said that at some point in time, we're gonna have to draw the line and make somebody move one of these structures. Well, what is gonna be that point? Somebody you don't like, somebody you disagree with? I just don't know how you can just arbitrarily say you can have a variance and you can't. As
Mr.
far as,
Robeson, this is about a moratorium,
and
not the
that's,
land use
but
code.
that's where I'm headed. And so how am I supposed to trust you that you're gonna force these utility companies to abide by the land use code? If they violate it, you're not gonna say, hey, man, you violated the land use code, do something different. No, you just grant them an afterthought of a variance. And that's my concern. So yes, a moratorium is the right thing to do until you guys decide whether you're gonna enforce the land use code or you're not gonna enforce it. And last but not least is my opinion that the only thing green about, quote, renewable energy, unquote, is the cash government is stealing out of my wallet.
Thank you. Next.
Hello. My concern is
Name?
Name and
well,
and address,
Leslie,
please.
well, it's community. Can you hear me? I can't hear myself. Leslie Ham.
Get as close as you can.
I own a couple properties here. You guys work for us. We pay your wage through our taxes. Where I'm at with it is everybody now do what they want. I think you guys should bring it to the public to be voted on. You know, if we vote for it and we approve it, then it should go forward. But if we don't vote for it, you guys are voting it for us. See what I'm saying? It should be up to the community to vote on it. We pay the taxes here. You guys pay taxes. So I think it should be brought to the public on a ballot and be voted in. That's all I got to say.
Okay. Thank you. Next.
Good morning. My name is Louise Jackson, and I'm at 8068 Road 29.4 Loop. And yes, I'm happy about the moratorium, and I hope that you will take in consideration of why we moved out there, that we've got the wide open spaces, and we have Mesa Verde, we have the ute, the sleeping ute, and if we wanted the noise, we wanted the heat, all of that hardware, we would be in town. We wouldn't be out there developing our properties. And I invite all of you to come out to our loop and take a look at what would impact all of us to look at nothing but a panel, a sea of solar panels. Thank you, and I have faith that you're going to do the right decision.
Thank you. Next.
Hello, my name is Amanda Barcinas of 23905 Road 12, Pleasant View. I want to start off by saying I'm in favor of the moratorium on utility scale energy development, and thank you for your consideration for it. I believe that threshold standards must be developed for utility scale solar to protect those that live in the area, including wildlife, those that are affected the most. I do not believe that these industrial projects should be allowed in residential or agricultural zone areas. I do not believe that homes that people live in should be surrounded by projects spanning thousands of acres. Ask yourself, would you buy a home with solar panels on it? Probably. Now, would you buy a home completely surrounded by thousands of panels glaring back at you? I know I wouldn't. So how would this affect property values? Because no one wants to live around these projects. I encourage you to look at research done on utility scale solar and the long-term effects. The issue is you will have a hard time finding it. Before 2012, not much research was performed because not many large-scale solar projects existed. In the last 10 to 15 years, there has been a major rush for renewable energy like solar. So some will say that we're going backwards or trying to slow progress with this moratorium. But in truth, we want to slow down and take the time to do research. Let's take a look at wildlife. Construction grading for these projects remove all native vegetation, which continues to be suppressed through the project's operations. Utility scale solar projects destroy habitats of many wildlife species by eliminating breeding sites and forage. Estimates of solar energy's impacts could be more complete by measuring numerical losses of wildlife populations caused by habitat loss. So let's see these values on projects that already exist and multiply that by all the proposed projects in the U.S. Project sites should be studied prior to construction to estimate densities in breeding and non-breeding seasons to see the potential impact. This is just one example of research needed, not even touching the impacts on agricultural land. We need to be thorough and not just worry about the now. We need to know how this will affect us in the future and how to mitigate risk. We have questions that need to be answered regarding habitat loss, wildlife migration, wildlife fencing, tons of solar waste, and disposal at the end of the panel's usable period. Property values, noise, glare, the lake effect, long-term effects of solar panels in a semi-arid region, microclimates, erosion, flooding, will there be dust and weed suppressants used, impacted views, runoff onto neighboring properties, wildfires, pest control, and truthfully the list goes on. We need this moratorium.
Thank you. Next.
Good morning. My name is Joy Cochran. I live at 16789 Road S, Cortez. Thank you so much for considering this moratorium on utility scale solar and energy production. This solar conversation has been so stressful. It gives me hope that you as our commissioners are taking seriously the targeting of our county, farmland in particular, for these large-scale utility projects. This isn't a duplex on the corner or even a dollar store. These projects are over 900 acres far and wide and many more acres under contract for expansion. No matter your opinion on solar, we need solid standards to protect our beautiful county and residents. There are many countries that have determined what needs to be protected, and they found that farmland and their people rank first. The following countries have banned or strictly regulated solar from farmland in an effort to ensure food security and preservation of natural environments: Germany, France, United Kingdom, India, Italy, South Korea, China, Australia, Japan, Brazil, Spain, Mexico, Egypt, Turkey, South Africa. Instead, they are installing on rooftops, wasteland, industrial sites. Can we not exhaust these areas fully before taking our farmland and reducing those affected residents of their property value, organic orchards and gardens, quality of life, and potential health risks, since we will surely be their new lab rats? Thank you. The potential for a moratorium gives us hope that our concerns are being considered. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Tucker Robinson. I live at 24444 Road T in Dolores, and I'm also a small business owner here in Cortez. I'm here just to voice my support for the development of commercial-scale solar energy production in the county. This form of energy production can not only generate affordable and reliable electricity for our region, but it also has the potential to produce much-needed tax revenue for our county. If properly regulated, installed, and executed, commercial-grade solar energy production will be a consistent revenue source for our county that is less prone to boom and bust cycle of the oil and gas industry that we've seen over the past many decades. In a time of increasing costs, the idea of putting a long-term moratorium on solar energy generation that could help fund our schools, county infrastructure, and healthcare facilities is short-sighted. Without proper funding for these necessities within a community, we will have a hard time retaining residents in our county. I ask that you please consider for allowing responsible and regulated commercial-grade solar installations within Montezuma County. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Next.
Commissioners. Elise Goggin. I currently live at 415 North Ash, moving to 13545 Road 32.4. Thank you for listening to us today. I think most folks in this room would agree that solar has been a hot topic in this community for the last several years. It's not breaking news that we have the right conditions for efficiently generating electricity in Montezuma County. Yet despite having years to consider if our land use code is sufficient to support this growing industry, you waited until a permit was submitted. This permit didn't come out of thin air. The company that submitted it first spoke to the Board of Commissioners in November 2021, and 2 of you were there. Excuse me. For you to wait until a permit has been submitted to consider enacting a moratorium is a failure to perform the duties required of your elected positions. As a federal worker that had to take time off from a job that is currently under extreme scrutiny to be here today, I am disappointed, to say the least. So while I support updating our code to be more specific about the requirements for different types of solar installations in the future, I'm asking the board to acknowledge that rejecting a permit that was developed over the course of 3 years of public engagement and communication is not only irresponsible, it's unjust. As I pointed out the last time I stood before you, and as your lawyer confirmed during a recent workshop and today, the current land use code gives the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners the ability to place conditions of approval that are as protective as any land use code in the state, and I've looked at a lot of them. So go ahead and issue the moratorium, the temporary moratorium, for the new permits, but don't move the goalpost, don't move the goalpost, I lost my spot, for the permit in the process. You have already started working on a plan for updating the code. Keep moving forward with that process. Use it to inform your conditions for approval. You have already failed to be proactive in your decision making, but you can still do what's best for Montezuma County. Don't forget that during the listening sessions that you hosted, there was balanced representation from both supporters and concerned citizens. Take this opportunity to meet both sides with a solution that will address concerns while also bringing needed revenue to the community and respecting the tremendous amount of work that has been put into the existing permit. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next.
Hello, my name is Joel Lee. I live at 13812 County Road 28 in Dolores. I appreciate the chance to talk about this moratorium for Montezuma County. Solar has the potential to bring millions of dollars into our county to help improve local infrastructure for schools, law enforcement, and roads. It could provide similar benefits that Kinder Morgan and oil and gas has provided to this area over a generation, maybe multiple, which has been a boon for the county and helped pay for much of the local infrastructure without raising taxes on individuals. It could boost local business, create jobs, and provide local landowners with steady income that is returned back to the local economy. Moratoriums are normally enacted for 2 reasons. They are needed to prevent a shortage or an overburden of public facilities. That can't be the reason in this situation, as comparable development has occurred in solar, oil and gas, and other areas in our neighboring county and our own, in the neighboring county with much less resources than our own. Another reason for a moratorium is application of existing comprehensive plans, land use ordinance or regulations or other applicable laws, if any, that is inadequate to prevent serious public harm. Thousands of acres in Montezuma County have been developed for housing and subdivisions in the last few decades with little concern. The additional needs from these residential developments have a much higher impact on public infrastructure than the solar development does, with much less return to the county. And this development is one of the main reasons why we need some of this solar or other energy resources to maintain the growth that has already occurred.
In fact, solar is helping to address some of those strains on public infrastructure. So this can't be the reason for a moratorium either. If it's determined that a moratorium on solar must be enacted, then an emphasis must be placed on keeping the time period short with clear goals. I would support the commissioners in a short moratorium only if it's used to create fair, concise solar ordinance that lays out a solid structure for future development. Care must be taken not to allow bloated regulation and policy to ruin an opportunity for our area. It must treat solar and landowners fairly and not slow walk the process just to delay with a lack of factual reasons. Opportunity does not often knock twice, and significant delays could cause our community to miss out on some big benefits. I believe any concerns with solar can be worked out within current policy. I urge the commissioners to keep working towards fair policies.
Thank you. Next.
Good morning. Good morning, Chair Candelaria and Commissioner Lindsay and Commissioner Kopenhofer. Thank you for allowing us to speak today. My name is David Kimmett. I represent UV, the one applicant that's been mentioned. My personal address is 9536 Schlegel Street, Longmont, Colorado 80503. Our corporate address is 1710 29th Street, number 1068, Boulder, Colorado 80301. We've been through the process with Montezuma County for quite some time, as especially Chair Candelaria and Commissioner Lindsay are aware. I presented, as someone mentioned, November 16th, 2021. I've become really friendly with the land use code, and I know it really well. Section 2202.7, in particular for high impact permits, is something that is a profound level of scrutiny given to the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners. Your land use code as it stands is robust. I've examined land use codes across the state of Colorado in my diligence on other projects. I think you have a good one. However, that said, moratoria are allowed under Colorado Revised Statutes 3028-121. And perhaps going forward, that's a process that should be undertaken. That said, UV's been working in this community. First in 2020, I reached out to Don Haley in 2020 on this project. Came before this board in 2021. We've conducted studies for now years. We're in the 5th year of this project. I've worked closely with neighbors, as they know, and we don't see eye to eye on this project. But I personally come here voluntarily, including yesterday, hosting another community meeting with neighbors in the Goodman Point area. And it's not because we have to. There's nothing in the code that says we need to do this. It's because we honestly try to incorporate public input in how we formulate our projects. I guess a good example of that would be the current Dolores Canyon Solar Project in Dolores County. We've received a letter, which is a part of our application, and I'm careful not to talk about the current application that we have under review, but we have a letter of support from the Dolores County Board of County Commissioners for the project. I feel it's kind of a hunting analogy would be in line here. You receive your elk tag, you plan for it, you go out, you are about ready to aim after a couple days in the field, and a CPW helicopter zooms in and says, hey, guess what? We have 2026 rules now, even though it's 2025. We feel we should be considered under the current regulations. I think the current regime as it stands is a good one. Thank you.
Thank you. Next. And this will be the last 3-minute comment, and then we're going to reduce the time to 2.
My name is Cynthia Campbell. I live at 8095 Road 29.4 in Cortez, at the same subdivision, Cielo Bonito Rancheros. When I first talked about solar energy, I mentioned to a friend, well, what do you think of this? And he goes, well, what business ever comes to town to not make money? So my question is, is all the revenue generated from this going to the county? Or how much of it is going to the business that's put in so many years developing this project? How are they going to benefit versus how is the county of Montezuma going to benefit? And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Travis, would you change that to 2 minutes?
Rats, I should have talked sooner. My name's M.B. McAfee. I live at 22277 Road 20 in Lewis. I've got a bit of a different perspective for you. Our county has always been about extraction for the benefit of our residents. Start with the water that we extracted years ago in a trans-basin maneuver to bring water to a tiny place that became Cortez. Then we extracted much of the minerals and nutrients from dry land farming, and we're still doing that on our irrigated land. Coal mining was happening in the 40s and 50s when I was a kid. Then there was uranium. Now, not much of that was on our county, but uranium miners lived here and spent their money here. Then there was the oil boom and several boomlets. Workers and their families lived here and spent their money here. Then we extracted water again, this time in the form of damming the Dolores River and spreading water to the Ute Mountain Ute tribal land and to land out near Dove Creek. Then CO2 was discovered to be plentiful under what became the McElmo Dome, and wow, did we ever get into extraction then. Some of those extractive practices were embraced full on, some faced opposition along the way. Now comes solar, another opportunity for extraction in a sense. Sun shines on our county. It can be used to produce electricity, to feed the grid that keeps our homes lit, our clothes washed, etc. And now comes opposition to a plan that has been so carefully thought out. Based on the decisions that you made earlier today with 2 other residents, it would seem that the only consistent thing that you can do is to allow the current project that's under scrutiny and then do your due diligence in doing a moratorium and making good, solid plans for future large projects. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Adrienne Dorsey, and my address is 58 Folsom Place in Durango, Colorado. I'm here today representing the COSA Institute, which is a 501c3 nonprofit organization focused on advancing community-led clean energy solutions. Over the past 2 years, our organization has provided guidance and technical assistance to jurisdictions amending their land use codes to include regulations for solar and storage projects. We have an office in Southwest Colorado and extensive experience working with communities and elected officials along the Western Slope. We support the Commissioner's all-of-the-above energy strategy that emphasizes a diversified energy approach and want to highlight the importance of including utility-scale solar and storage projects in your energy mix to ensure a stable, secure, and reliable energy supply. Should the Board of County Commissioners vote to adopt a moratorium on utility-scale solar developments to allow time to adopt regulations for solar projects, we offer the following considerations based on lessons learned from working with other counties in Colorado. First, adopt a strict deadline to lift the moratorium within 6 months. Doing so will ensure the efficient use of tax dollars, streamline the process to amend the county's land use codes, and allow for new project applications to be submitted within a timely manner. As Commissioner Candelaria referenced earlier, Mesa County's process is one to replicate. They lifted their moratorium within 4 months and have regulations that were embraced by both the community and the solar industry. I'll also note that they also have incentives for agrivoltaics to encourage dual-use development of solar projects on farmlands. We also encourage that you allow for existing applications to continue moving through the review process. And finally, if hiring a consultant to assist with an amendment to your land use codes, we ensure that the company that you hire has experience working on regulations specific to solar and storage projects. Finally, we're happy to be a reference free of charge as you move forward with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Landon Wilson, 25227 Road 14, Pleasant View, Colorado. First off, I want to thank you guys for even debating whether or not to put a moratorium in place. I would encourage that you guys do this. One of my questions for you guys to consider is, what is your definition of productive ag land? As Commissioner Candelaria had mentioned, technically dry land, farm ground can be productive. So I would like to see you guys maybe define that a little bit more if you can. I ask that you also include the current application to be placed under the moratorium. I would encourage everyone in this room to go down Road 15, just north of Highway 491 in Pleasant View, where UV is building in Dolores County, and you'll see how much that road has degraded due to the high traffic. There needs to be more regulations be put in place in Montezuma County to avoid messes like Road 15, and I want to thank UV for building in Dolores County so that we can learn from their mistakes up there. It was mentioned that the proposed project spent $1 million so far. That is a drop in the bucket. The county will be spending more than $1 million in cleaning up these solar facilities if the county does not do this the right way. There's a lot of miscommunication as well. A lot of people think that these projects are 20 to 40 acres, you know, the ones out by Taunton Lake and the ones out by Empire Electric, but that is not the case. This is thousands of acres of farm ground being taken up for these large-scale solar facilities. And I just ask and encourage that you guys put this moratorium in place. You know, 6 months is great, a year is great. I just want you guys to figure out exactly what you need to do to protect the county, to protect the heritage here. So thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Good morning, all. Beth Howell, 17557 Road P, Cortez, Colorado. I would like to address Dave Kimmett's remarks, Kimmel, whatever, yesterday.
Actually, this is just comments to us.
Well, he said it. Okay.
That's okay. We're just addressing the
sorry.
board right now.
Anyway, I want you to make sure that all your answers or your questions are answered with this company if it proceeds, because with my past experience with them, there's a lot of unknowns when I've asked certain questions. And it's very, very important that you get the right answers and they know the right answers, because truthfully, it's all up in the air. You know, it all boils down to the unknown, and I just hope you guys will consider this moratorium and do your best for future generations. Thanks.
Thank you. Next.
Hi, my name's Jennifer Singer, 29134 Road M.4 Dolores. I can see both sides of what everybody's saying about the moratorium. I think the moratorium should probably go in effect so you can look at whatever you need to look at. But the people who already have the project should be able to go through with it, just because you have plenty of other rules and regulations for them to work through. And it's not a done deal, so go through your process. But I have to say a couple things about people who are talking about the past. I'm going to talk about the future real quick. I'd rather have a solar farm on ag land than oil, gas, uranium mining, carbon capture, etc., on public land sold to corporations. Do you support the public lands resolution in support of our public lands and federal employees? By the way, what would happen to our watershed health and our water supply if our public lands are sold off to the highest bidder? If 72% of Montezuma County is public lands and they're sold off to private parties, what if the Dolores River is sold to a corporation? With no government, there's no water rights, and who knows if they would use the water for industry or if we could even afford to buy their water. Excuse me. The rest of us might have to leave our worthless properties because no water means no life, and Montezuma County will truly become an energy sacrifice zone for the rest of the country. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Good morning, County Commissioners. My name is Curtis Cowan. I live at 8577 Road 29.4. And I'm in favor of the moratorium. It seems to me that if you're going to do a moratorium, you wouldn't want any of the existing applications to go on without that being in the moratorium too. And I have a question. Can the moratorium be longer than 6 months?
So again, I apologize to everybody. This is not a debate. This is not a question and answer.
Okay,
So
sorry.
we will get with you later if you want to
Okay,
come back.
that's fine.
But this is public comment. You're just addressing the board at this time. It's your time to talk and our time to listen.
Okay, so I'm in favor of the moratorium being longer than 6 months, maybe a couple years, at least till 26, because of the government funding, the taxpayers fund for these solar projects. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
My name's Lowell Voke, 23137 County Road 12. I think the moratorium should be a little bit longer because it's going to take some studying to try and compensate what the solar panels can do. First of all, a study's been done where the solar panels are no better than, they're less than 23% efficient. I think in your moratorium, you should go in and look at some of the places, like in Nebraska, where a whole field of solar panels were destroyed. What happened to them? How did they get rid of them? What are the side effects from it? And I think those need to be looked at, because we can have the same problem here. We can have lightning come in, destroy them. We can have hail come in, destroy them. There can be a fire that can destroy them. And there's a lot of things in there that I think you need to look at and really take into consideration that will affect not only the local place, but it could affect everyone in the area. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
My name is Diana Cascale, and I live at 11498 Road BB, Pleasant View. And I am in favor of the moratorium. I have solar panels across the roof of my house, and I firmly believe in it, but I'd like to see them put on top of our roofs and not on our farmland. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Good morning. My name is Mike Lynch. I'm at 21730 Road S. I just want to thank this board for considering a moratorium for 6 months in order to take a pause on these massive projects that are starting to come to our county, and to give time for consideration to updating the land use code in order to properly consider these projects, which I think are not properly considered in the land use code, especially the nuclear, but the solar is the big deal right now. And I want to thank you, gentlemen, for considering this resolution. And I'm thinking that 6 months will be enough, but who knows? We'll see how it goes. Thank you.
Thank you. Next. All right. Seeing no further public comment, I will close the public comment session for this public hearing. And I will bring it back to the board, or to Mr. Tarnowski first. Do you have anything that you would like to comment on, Stephen?
Just to the board, I think we're in this public hearing today to make a decision ideally on the resolution for a moratorium and what the scope of that moratorium might be. And then my request ultimately would be to give me to our next regular meeting on Tuesday, just to draft up whatever the board wants to see to be adopted at that time. But I think you can make the decision today. I just need some time to turn whatever you say into a resolution.
Okay. Also, too, one other comment that I'd like to let all of the public know, if you didn't get a chance to comment today, you can, for the record, leave everything, if you have anything to add, leave it up here with our clerk and recorder, so that we do have that for the record today if you didn't want to get up here and talk, or if you have something printed, that would also be okay. So, gentlemen.
Well, personally, I think we should do the moratorium, and then we should make sure that we're going to get this, all of our language in the land use code to where we can make sure that this county's taken care of into the future as far as these large projects of this size goes. I'm not saying that we couldn't do this under our land use code as it is now, because I think, according to our attorney, we have the ability to put in place most of the things that I'm concerned about. It just worries you if you're missing something. But I think we should put the moratorium on for any, at least for any new applications.
Okay. Anything else, Commissioner?
I agree. It was mentioned about us being lacking in doing our due diligence. We can't do due diligence on rumor and myth and gossip. We've got to have hard facts in front of us to make these decisions. So I'm in favor of a moratorium.
So if we adopt this today, well, let me give you my 2 cents first, too. Gosh, I was going to forget that. So, you know, as I've stated, and one of the ladies from the COSA, the Colorado Solar Storage Association, I think that's the right acronym, we have looked at a lot of other counties that have adopted these throughout the state. And they have worked with a lot of these, obviously not here in Montezuma County in the southwest region, but we are wanting to do the best that we can for the future of this county. I don't think at all that we are even considering the moratorium for anything that's already been presented or that's in the queue. I think this is future looking, as our attorney has stated, to make sure that we have the proper language in there, so that we don't end up with the mess as we stated before. And I think having just a pause on this for a few short months, it gives us a lot of time to make sure that we have this proper. There is two sides to this discussion. We all were inundated with emails last night and phone calls. I don't know how many, but tons. So it's a hot topic on both sides of the coin. However, we're faced with the decision now for a moratorium, and I would agree with the gentleman to my left and my right that to take a pause right now doesn't hurt, and that it just gives us a little more time to review some more reports, to do some more homework on our sides, and give our staff and us enough time to do this. So I would agree with you, gentlemen. So with that, anybody like make a motion one way or another, and then we'll give the attorney at least a week to draft the resolution. Is that enough time, Steve?
Yes.
Okay.
I move to approve a moratorium for 6 months for Montezuma County on particularly large utility scale energy development, particular solar energy.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to adopt a moratorium prohibiting acceptance of processing of utility scale energy development.
So I just want to clarify one issue. So what I understood the board to say was that the motion was to stop the acceptance of new applications,
Correct.
but the board doesn't want to pause the application that's already pending. Is that correct?
Is that your motion, Gerald?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
All right. Thank you for clarifying.
Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. I will close this public hearing, and again, if you have anything that you want to leave for the record, you can leave it with our clerk and recorder. All right, thank you all. All right, well, we got done with that public comment. We're gonna now go into the public comment session of our regular meeting. The Board of Montezuma County Commissioners welcomes you to this meeting. Persons speaking during public comment will be limited to 3 minutes, or depending on the number of people wishing to speak, it may be reduced to allow all the members of the public the opportunity to address the board. When addressing the board, please state your name and address for the record prior to providing your comments. Comments to individual supervisors or staff are not permitted, and participants may not yield their time to others. With that, this public comment session of this meeting is now open.
Hi again, M.B. McAfee, 22277 County Road 20. I haven't been really active with county commission affairs. I've been watching, but I just haven't been coming to meetings. And I want to say that I'm really happy that you're doing the Coffee with Commissioners. I have friends that have gone to that, and they have good reports to say about it. Also, I'm pretty active with the Friends of the Hospital. And Commissioner Copenhaver came to one of our meetings. He listened carefully. I think he passed his message on to Commissioner Candelaria, who hopefully passed that message on to Representative Hurd. I think that you all are a forward-looking bunch, something that I think I talked about many years ago. And I think taking a pause to develop a moratorium for new stuff that's coming down the road is surely the right thing to do. And I also think taking or adopting the new variance section, I guess is what to call it, for the land use code is also the right thing to do, because as I sat through county commissioner meetings for 6 years, variance after variance after variance after variance came to the board. Most of them, none of them that I can hardly think of, without any kind of consequence or fine. So thanks for updating the land use code in that sense. Thanks for talking to the community. I really do appreciate the receptivity that I feel from all of you. So I just want to tell you thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Mary Dodd, and I live at 1324 Melrose Street, and I also own 25 acres on Road 17 in the Goodman Point area. And if it could be used for solar, I would be happy to have it be used for solar, but it can't right now. Thank you for continuing to represent the best interests of Montezuma County, particularly our economy, as you meet with state and federal representatives and as you make decisions that will impact all of us. We love living here, and I know you do too as well. Like a broken record, I'm here to talk about our economic well-being as it regards the hospital. I am a hospital board member, but I speak only as a private citizen and not in my role as a hospital board member. From just about any perspective, our hospital is an amazing comeback story. I like to think of it as a crown jewel among our local businesses. In addition to being among the top 3 employers in the county with higher than median salaries than most other businesses, its presence ensures that we can attract young families to move and stay here and seniors to retire and stay here. It's a critical economic driver, and in the past 20 months, it has recruited a number of physicians who have moved here with their families. They bought land here, and they hope to continue living here and raise their kids here. The county faces a large economic shortfall, as you know, and potential cuts to Medicare, Medicaid, and veterans benefits will hurt the hospital and our larger economy. So I urge you to continue to represent the interests of, particularly of our hospital, as you continue to meet with and work with our elected representatives. Thank you.
Thank you. Next. All right. With that, I'll close the public comment session of this meeting, and I will bring it back into unfinished business. The first thing that we had that was presented in our workshop yesterday was the road and bridge proposed fee schedule. Again, you know, we're looking at all of our departments and fee schedules for everything that we have out there right now. This was presented yesterday. We only have 2 increases that the road and bridge superintendent presented, but these are up for discussion, gentlemen. So.
I had my input yesterday.
I guess the only one that I have that I'm a little more leery of is the asphalt breach. And I get where Rob was coming from. He wants to get more people to bore, and I don't disagree with that. However, there are sometimes that you don't have a choice but to breach the asphalt. And I'm not sure. I think it should be done more on a square footage basis, because if the breach is extremely large, it could be a lot more than $3,000 to repair it. Am I making sense? Because, I mean, if this is just a typical trench cut, a 2-foot trench, 3-foot trench, okay, it'll cover it, and then you'll decide to bore before you decide to do the cut. But the more I look at this, what if you have to do a 10-foot trench cut because you have an 8-foot culvert that has to go in there?
That was
So
my concern. Was
if we do
like
just
we
a,
had with MBI about the culvert.
if we do just a set fee, I think we almost hamstring the county to say, okay, it's just $3,000. I think a more fair and equitable way would be a square foot fee based on the size of the cut. That way, if you're making a little bitty cut, it's not gonna be near as much. But if you also make a big cut, because that's what you have to do, we do have a lot of 6, 8, 10-foot culverts in this county. And a lot of times, you're not gonna bore those. They're just not gonna be bored.
No.
You know, about, I think 18 to 24 is about the largest bore that anybody around here that I know can even possibly do. So I'm a little leery on the $3,000 increase. I think that we should take a little, do a little better math. And that's just me. After this was presented yesterday, I'm like, I don't feel real comfortable with it. So I'm just expressing my thought for that.
I have to yield to Gerald. I mean,
Well, I'm not disagreeing with Jim, because most of those large culverts he's talking about are probably across our MVI's ditches.
yeah.
Which were there before our county roads.
And I'm just,
And who's responsible for those culverts?
I think we are at this present time.
And that's the way it actually should be, because just like the state is responsible for that flume going across the highway out there. That's actually the state's responsible for that, not MVI.
And I'm not actually talking about
But that's-
MVIs. I'm just talking
but
about.
I agree with you 100%, but just to say a flat $3,000,
Yeah. It might
somebody
not
that's
come.
gonna cut a 6-inch cut across there is not the same as somebody that's gonna replace an 8-foot culvert. I'm
And
not
that's-
disagreeing.
that's what I'm
I think we
saying,
should
it's-
look at that and come up with an actual figure as to, like you said, maybe on square footage,
Yeah.
some other thing than just a flat rate there, because that's gonna be in some people's benefit in a way, and it's gonna hurt other people's way more than it should, so.
Which to me, I think it was presented as just an arbitrary number, and Don Haley and I have had conversations about this. I hate arbitrary numbers. I just, there's a calculation for math for everything, and I think that we should take some time and look at this, and I'll obviously take some time and put some square foot numbers to it that I can reference out of books that deal with construction. So I would not feel comfortable adopting this today, but it won't take me long to get some numbers so that we can adopt it. The $1.50 a lineal foot increase for the dust abatement, I think that's fair. We did have a huge increase in our cost for product this year, so that definitely has to be upgraded. But if I could have at least another week to look at this, I think it would be maybe a better application based on a math figure.
And I would support that as well, Commissioners. Given the discussion today, I have some legal concerns about a fee that seems arbitrary to the board to be assessing. So I think it's a good idea to take that back, maybe do some math on how to make that really a fair and equitable assessment of fees, which is ultimately what the county is tasked with doing when assessing any kind of fee. Is it's supposed to be reasonably related to the costs that are incurred by the county. So it sounds like maybe there's some more work that could be done on that front.
Okay. I will take care of that, and I'll have something for you by next week. Moving on, we have the 90-day work schedule. We'll just present this. This is up. This was also discussed yesterday. Now, obviously, this is not cast in stone. There are things that pop up that they do have to do, but this is kind of what we're looking at for the next 90 days as we search for a new road and bridge superintendent. So that's just a display. Go ahead, Travis.
Real quick, Commissioners, I know we'd had some previous discussion about the mag chloride. I'm not sure if you gentlemen wanted to pause that for right now until we can figure out our ratio usage and the spray bars. I know we've had conversations with external companies, and we might need to upgrade our spray trucks to actually spray the correct ratios. So I'm not sure if that's something that you gentlemen wanted to do or not.
That was scheduled to start in May, correct?
Yes, sir.
I'm not, I think we can have the conversation. I don't know if, well, I don't know.
I don't think we need to approve this. We just.
We don't have to approve this.
No.
This is just going forward. I think we still do the research for us, because with the increase of that cost of material, we need to be as efficient as we can possibly be. And spray bars are definitely going to be more efficient. We're going to have to do some retro to our trucks, but it's definitely doable.
Yeah.
So maybe just a conversation with them, Travis, make sure that we maybe just hold off until the middle of May, until we have a little more conversation, but I don't think we need to approve this. Just for the public's notification, it was last week also brought up that, questioning what was going on out there with the road and bridge, as far as why they were graveling roads, so on and so forth. So this is just an update so everybody can see. It is on their website. We'll put it on our website. It is public record of kind of what's planned for the next 90 days. Lastly, we are in the process of our engineering to be complete. Up on 25 and 184, we are needing to purchase 2.16 acres from an independent landowner up there. And today we would have to make that approval. The asking price for the property is $15,000 an acre, $30,000 for the 2.16 that we need. So
I would so move we approve and proceed with the right-of-way negotiations on Highway 184, County Road 25.
with the purchase of the land.
Yes.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to proceed with the right-of-way negotiations and the purchase of the property for $30,000 at Highway 184 and County Road 25. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, moving right along. Attorney Tarnowski.
Commissioners, for my report, I've just got a couple updates. I continue to work with Shelley Hickerson from CDPHE about trying to make some progress on the Ironwood case. We're continuing our foreclosure action in Archuleta County. I haven't gotten any kind of substantive update on her meeting with the bankruptcy attorney. I'm not sure if that's happened yet. So I'll be looking for that to kind of better inform the board how our litigation is going to be impacted. I was in court a couple days last week on some different child protection issues. This week, I'm not sure if the judge is on vacation or what's going on, but I have no court appearances, which is a nice break for me. I've been spending a lot of time with Don Haley on all kinds of different land use issues that we have going on. I'm also still trying to wrap up a Medicaid appeal that has been going on, and I still need to file a response on behalf of the county, so I'm hoping to get that finished up in the next day or two. Next Monday, there is a status conference set in the Leaf Properties dollar store case. I'm not expecting it to be a substantive development. Essentially, the way I understand the way that hearing was set is it was set as an incentive to get a decision out of the judge we're in front of on that issue. So maybe if things are moving along, we'll see a decision on that here before too long, but we'll just have to keep waiting for that decision to come out. I am planning on doing another round of advertising for our assistant county attorney position for kind of this month into the beginning of next month, potentially hoping to get some interest. I've been talking to some other county attorneys. It does just seem like a difficult time to be hiring in general in our area for this kind of work. I know I got some information about Montrose and Archuleta and some of these other kind of southwestern Colorado counties have not been having a lot of luck in that respect, and that just kind of seems to be the way things are going right now. So we'll keep that up, and then if we keep going like this, ultimately I think I would like to have some more of a substantive conversation about like how we're going to run the office long term. I think it's still a good plan to try to hire someone, but the feedback I've been getting is that it's not a great time to be doing that. So we'll see where we end up.
They're all back in Washington, D.C.
They're not around here, is what I'm hearing.
They're creating a vacuum across the country.
Thank you, Stephen. Travis.
Gentlemen, a lot of what I worked on last week you addressed yesterday and today. Just to reiterate, our superintendent job application is online. Excuse me. We had a meeting and I got a guest here, Ms. Bug. We met with EagleNet last week on some new software, and I know we're trying to be more efficient and effective in capturing properties that are not either one on the tax roll or two new construction. The cost we anticipate to be about $110,000 per year, but what that's going to end up doing is helping the assessor's office in return on investment with personnel, and it's also going to help us capture properties that's not on the tax roll. It'll help our P&Z, our GIS, emergency management, dispatch. So our goal is, if we can get preliminary approval, to get another meeting set up with those entities. What we're running into is, granted we don't have it budgeted right now, but we would need preliminary approval for EagleNet to fly Montezuma County in anticipation of bringing the software on board. And we can only do that in the spring.
Yeah, like soon.
It's got to be fairly soon. So basically, I think what we would need is a letter either signed by me or one of the commissioners authorizing in anticipation this software coming online so that they can have that up and ready.
They like to do it before the leaves start growing on the trees, so there's good, the aerial views are where we can see the houses that are built in the trees and able to measure roof lines and stuff without the trees with the leaves on. So it would be soon.
And you're still not fully staffed over there, are you?
Oh, no, we have 5 people,
Yeah,
including myself.
I mean, I was leading to, we've struggled with staffing at our assessor's office, which for, I guess, lack of better terms, is our source of revenue. And if we can do this electronically, you know, we'll save all of that, I guess, all of the wages and retirement benefits and everything else.
It is hard. I understand what Stephen's saying with trying to find people to hire.
Right.
I mean, it is hard to find people, appraisers, that want to do all the schooling, that want to keep up on the education, that want to, I mean, I only have 2 appraisers, and that's their responsibility, is to take care of the whole county. Where this will help us, you know, I can do it sitting at my desk also. I don't have to be in the field. I can be doing it on the phone while I'm, you know, in the office helping with the customers, doing everything else. You know, I can assist also while I'm doing all the other daily stuff. And it'll just be, we won't be driving to the properties. We can just do it at our desks.
Efficiency through technology.
Yep, exactly.
So we need just a preliminary approval for the fly?
Yes, we don't have to do the contract. I believe what we understood is, and I'm going to confirm this with Eagle View this afternoon, we just need a preliminary go ahead to do the fly, and then we will get the contract information done.
And
So
it
does
would
that-
obviously be up to the commissioners if they want to incorporate that this year. I'm not sure how long it takes for the flyover and the data, or we can present it for 26 budget, but.
Well, we need, I'll gather all the revenue that I can gather. I mean, we're in a situation where we need to have the proper revenue, or to be on a fair playing field for everybody. Some are getting away and some are not, so I think
Exactly.
it's more of a fair playing field, so.
But even if we, I mean, if we purchase the flyover and get the software in our system this year, everything will still be going on for 26.
Correct.
Because we're, you know, our
Right.
notices of value will be going out in May
Right.
for 25. So we can get a head start on getting lost revenue. Because we have a pretty good handle on new construction now, what's been permitted, but this would be catching us up. And then the one thing that he did show us is every year, once we have our first snapshot, then the next year, so when we would do a full flyover or our little, what we were talking about, what brings it to the 110,000 is we would have a little, every year, a little snapshot that shows us, you need to look at these accounts every single year. It tells us you have 20% change in these accounts. Go right there and get that revenue right away. Every single year we would have that ability. So that's pretty neat that we could just work off of that right away and get that done.
I refer to it as Eagle Net Light for the off years versus
Yeah.
flyover every 2 years.
And we would just do the flyover every 2 years, which would be the revaluation years that we would.
Yep.
That's why
Every
we
odd
would do
year.
that. Mhm.
Okay.
The
I would
full
so
flyover.
move we authorize Travis, our county administrator, to proceed with this, with Eagle Net's flyover.
It's Eagle View.
Eagle View.
Eagle
what-
View.
I mean, big brother, eye in the sky, whatever you want to call it. I mean, nobody likes that, but we have to keep up. We can't do without our appraisers.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to authorize our administrator for a letter for preliminary approval for Eagle View to move forward with the fly. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Anything else, Travis?
Just real quick, just a couple other things. Been working on some contracts. I sent them to Stephen related to JBBS and Access Mental Health. We're getting ready to move into another grant cycle, we want to make sure we have contracts in place for future.
Okay.
And that's it, gentlemen.
All right. Ms. Kim, do you have anything? All right. Commissioner Lindsay.
Yes, I have city council tonight. Anybody want to come on in and have a good time. It's kind of lonely in there some nights. But also, I want to congratulate the Home Builders Association for their Home and Garden Show. Was out there, had a good time, lots of people out there. And in my visiting with everybody out there, a problem kind of has arisen. People using cell phones are telling the cell phone or whoever to call the fire department. Well, when it does that, it does not call 911. It is actually calling the administration office at the fire department. So please, don't call the fire department, call 911 so the dispatchers can get people there. And so that's just, and also to Rawhide Auctions for their auction out there. There was quite the amount of people out there. And other than that, that's it.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Copenhaver.
Yeah, I went out to the Home and Garden Show on Friday for a few hours. Was out at the Republican booth for a period of time, visited quite a few people out there, and like Kent said, there's pretty good attendance, seemed like. They talked like there'd be more on Saturday. I don't know if there was or not, but it seemed like there was pretty good attendance on Friday and lots of people out there. So it was good. Like Ken, I'm got Mancos meeting tomorrow evening, and tomorrow afternoon and Thursday I have a Southwest Water Conservation Board meeting and an MVI meeting this afternoon. So I'll be meetinged out by the end of the week. And that's
All
about
right.
all I got.
Thank you, sir. Well, then I'll go to state and federal issues. I was able to reach out to Congressman Hurd with these two gentlemen by my side last week. We were able to send some personal text. I did get responses back from all of them. And that's, to me, I can't tell you how much that means to me that he will take, I don't get them right away, but within the next 48 hours, I typically get a response. And these are going to him personally, specifically on the NCA, which we're talking about a lot. And as far as addressing the hospital needs that we all support, because we all need a hospital here, and it is critical. So to address some of what Mary Dodd said in there, you know, we do talk to our congresspeople no matter where they're at. I did have a conversation this morning with John Whitney, Senator Bennett's aide out of Durango. And if I can, just to bring you gentlemen up to speed, to maybe send another letter, because it sounds like they are going to be able to reintroduce the NCA this week in Congress. So if I could have the authorization to draft a letter with Travis for the support of that again, I think we'll just use the same format that we had last time. Obviously, you'll get a copy of it to sign and send that back as they reintroduce that into Congress. Is that?
Yes. I move we update our letter of support for the NCA to Senators Bennett and Hickenlooper and to Congressman Hurd.
Second.
And
Oh, sorry.
thank them for their support of this project. Appreciate their work that they've done on it. I think it's something that's critical for our county in the future as far as our water supply that needs to be addressed.
I'll second that.
All right.
Again.
Then moved and seconded to resubmit the letter of support for the NCA as it is reintroduced in Congress, sent to Hickenlooper, Hurd, and Bennett. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next, I did have a conversation with Senator Simpson. It was Friday afternoon as he was driving home, and it had to do with basically a discussion of the moratorium for our large-scale solar. It sounds like the companies have been also at the state, which I really appreciated from him, that this is a local control issue and that he would not weigh in one way or another. I did tell him from the commission's standpoint that we really appreciated that, because local control is what we fight for at the state all of the time. So I just want to make that public and thank Senator Simpson for him leaving local control in local hands. We did have coffee with our public health on Wednesday the 2nd. We do have a new physician advisor, and I cannot remember her name, but she won't be with us today in our afternoon meeting, and I'll look it up here in a minute, so I apologize for that. But she has been a member of this community. She's been in Mancos, living in Mancos for about 5 years, she stated. She has been working out on the reservation, but she's now here for working with SHS. Do you remember her name?
Jocelyn Hirschman.
Jocelyn Hirschman. All right. There you go. Read the paper, huh? Anyway, it was nice to meet her. Commissioner Lindsay and I had the opportunity to sit and meet with her, and it was pretty good information. Travis and I Friday attended the CCI Zoom legislative briefing. This is just nothing but no votes are taking on these days. These are just briefings for what we're getting ready to do this Thursday and Friday up there. So I'll be heading to Denver Wednesday night, and I'll be up there Thursday and Friday to vote on the bills that are ahead of us. And hopefully there are not too many more, because there are a lot of them right now. And with that, gentlemen, that is all that I have.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to adjourn this April 8th, 2025 meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.